beggar by the end of her life, poor thing. But she did do a lot of good, and she did, all the young people who she took in all remember her affectionately and dearly, and I think some of them did come to her rescue ultimately. But those stories often end tragically. But still, I mean, it's a really colorful story. So if you're interested, Josephine Baker is another interesting Afro-American, if you want to call it, refugee in Paris between the wars, being the First and Second World Wars, and after the Second World War. Then there was Richard Wright, who is the famous, first really well-known Afro-American novelist. And he writes about racism in America, and for some reason he felt he had to flee to Paris. And he hung around the cafes in Paris, particularly after World War II. Many black soldiers didn't come back from World War II. I was in Paris in the, I mean, that was just like, if you were intellectual, artistic, bohemian, we didn't have beatniks back then. We used to call people bohemians. If you were anything like that kind of person, you ended up in Paris at some point or other. And I met my wife in Paris, actually, and I saw all these people hanging around the cafes there, even in the late 50s when I went there, passed through there after I graduated college and stuff like that. And they were all on the left bank, as it was called. I knew James Baldwin, bumped into him a few times. I didn't know him personally, talked to him, but exchanging word, or I've seen him in different cafes and things. And people like that. Melvin Van Peebles was a close personal friend of mine back in those days. A movie maker. You would never have expected that he would become a celebrated movie maker and famous movie maker. I saw his first movie and it was terrible. But there you are. You never know what talents are going to come to the fore. He was a very clever manipulator and operator, though, and so it doesn't surprise me that he learned how to massage the system to his own advantage. That didn't surprise me. No, he was a close friend of mine back in those days. So I met a lot of these people when I went through there, and they were still there. And Baldwin had another aspect to his character. Of course, he was, I don't like to use the word gay as such, homosexual. Again, it's a problem area that no word seems appropriate. I guess gay is the most acceptable usage these days. I don't know what the best usage would be. Anyway, his sexual orientation was towards people of the same sex, okay? Whatever word you want to apply to that, masculine or feminine, whatever is best for you. I mean, I don't even like the word lesbian, frankly. I don't think it seems to me pejorative in some way. But people, I saw a sign around the campus the other day, all lesbians come to this lesbian society meeting or whatever it was. Someone was going to talk or whatever, and so they didn't seem to mind using that word, so maybe it works fine, but to my mind there must be better words than these. I don't know what the words are. In any case, he was very strong in that direction, and that is not very widespread among the African American community, at least as far as an overt thing and overtly acceptable thing in most societies. So that was another thing that, if you like, made him into an exile or alienated. So he started off his career in Harlem, and he writes about his early life here in Harlem. He was the son of a preacher. Many famous black intellectuals, Malcolm X, for instance, others are often sons of preachers. Martin Luther King, I mean, preachers are obviously within the Afro-American community some of the most sophisticated, educated people. Even, I think, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are supposedly preachers or reverends of some kind today, political figures. So it's fairly widespread in the Afro-American community that being the son of a preacher is or believing yourself is a person of some substance and influence. And I think in Baldwin's case, it certainly did rub off very, very strongly. But Baldwin, does he like his father? Those of you are looking at this book here? No. No, he doesn't. He rather hates his father. Why does he hate his